Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Recovery Classroom. My name is Drew. I am an alcoholic, and today I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I could not be any more grateful. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today and kind of do a little bit of a deep dive. I'm going to take you on a journey talking about what the Big Book refers to as our biggest offender, the biggest reason why I would continually go back to the bottle. It's very clear in chapter 5, Bill Wilson writes that resentments are the number one offender. Well, what are resentments? What does that look like? How does that work? Well, resentments, I've heard this in the rooms, and it's a great saying, expectations are resentments under construction. We place expectations on people, on ourselves, and people or ourselves, we don't live up to those expectations, and we start resenting. And I know I, for one, did that. See, I had an expectation of perfection. I conceded that maybe I couldn't be perfect in this area and that area. No question. But I did have an expectation that I had to be perfect in this area and that area over here. And lo and behold, whenever I failed to live up to those expectations of perfection in my own life, well, I started resenting myself and I started hating myself. I started hating the person I'd allowed myself to become. It was okay to have, less than perfect expectations over here, but over here, man, I had to have perfect expectations. And I firmly believe, at least for me, that the expectation of perfection is perhaps the biggest resentment that I still deal with on a daily basis, even now. Taking you back to my early days in the rooms of recovery, when I first came in, I was hopeless. I was full of despair. I hated who I'd become. I saw no reason to even live. And I just thought, okay, I'll give this AA thing a good old-fashioned college try, just as a last-ditch effort, right? And I came in the rooms, and I've commented about this many times, how I saw people happy, joyous, and free. And I saw people smiling and laughing and having a good time. And it gave me hope, right? So what I didn't realize for a long time was happening, though, I was creating an expectation in my own mind, not by anybody else's hands, so let me be clear. In my own mind, all I saw was people being happy, joyous, and free. But in my mind, I made them happy, joyous, and free and perfect. There's that expectation of perfection. So imagine my surprise, my surprise whenever one day I was in a room with people who were happy, joyous, and free and perfect, and all of a sudden they said something I didn't agree with. All of a sudden they did something or told about them doing something that I would have never done, even now. What? Imagine my surprise when there was a personality conflict between me and somebody else in the room. So yes, I know it's hard to believe I may not get along with everybody, and that's okay. I had subtly, at a subconscious level, placed an expectation of perfection on other people. I dealt with my own personal expectation of perfection. I did that through working my 12 steps, right? I did that, finding a qualified sponsor, working with my qualified sponsor, taking a good hard look at myself. But unbeknownst to myself, and again, not due to the fault of anybody else but me, unbeknownst to myself, because I thought everybody in the rooms were perfect. I thought everybody loved each other, everybody got along, everybody, had each other's backs, everybody, all believed the same thing, there was no differences of opinions, nothing. I believed everybody was perfect. And so the first time somebody said something I disagreed with, or the first time somebody did something that I wouldn't have done, I was kind of taken aback. First time I might have had a personality difference with somebody, I was shocked. Whose fault was that? It was mine. Because, again, subconsciously, I placed an expectation of perfection on other people. Other people who had no idea. Like in my mind, somewhere along the line, I came up with the idea that a group of drunks and drug addicts all sitting around in a big room, talking shop, talking about how they got sober and how they stay sober, for some reason I thought they were perfect now. That's just not fair at all. It's just not true. I would hate for somebody to think that that I have all my shit together. And the last thing I want anybody to think is that I'm perfect. I still screw up. I still make mistakes. I still say things incorrectly. I still might misspeak. I still may make a mistake. Again, not intentional, but yet it's still made. The statement is still made, or the action is still taken. I'll never do anything to intentionally hurt anybody, but I'm not perfect at all. And I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm perfect. Likewise, it's not fair for me to expect perfection from other people either, especially those in recovery. Hell, if anything, those are the people who need my love and support and compassion more. Those are the folks that I need to be ready, the second I'm ready to point a finger at somebody, I realize there's three fingers pointing back. Those are the folks that I need to be more willing and I'm more ready to step up and help them. When I hear things about people and I go, ooh, I wouldn't have expected that. I wouldn't have expected them to say that or expected them to have done that. Sure, my knee jerk is, oh, that's kind of a shock. But I always try to stop. I always try to stop. And the first thing I do is remind myself, I am not perfect. I'm the furthest motherfucker away from perfection as there ever will be. I don't want that. I don't want to carry that standard and that bearer be the bearer of that flag either. Why would I ever want to put that flag in somebody else's hand? Why would I ever want to hold somebody else to that expectation of perfection when I myself would never want to be held to that level of perfection either? Sure, it's one thing to try to do the best you can, and when friends of mine will tell you, I always talk about intent. Well, what's my intent, right? I get it. But when I see things, people do things that are inconsistent with what I might do, it doesn't mean they're bad people. And matter of fact, that doesn't mean I have to agree with them either. You're allowed to disagree. You're allowed to say, yeah, Jimmy, you did this, but I wouldn't have done it. But that's okay, because all that matters, and this is the moral of the story, all that matters, whether I agree with you or not, whether you like me or not, whether we might have a personality conflict, whether you say something or I say something that might make you mad. None of that matters in the grand scheme of things. The only thing that matters is that you and I share the same common goal, which is for both of us to make it to the end of our day drawing a sober breath, putting our head down on a pillow and going to sleep rather than passing out, and waking up and doing it all over again the next day. Everything else, I could give a shit less. And that's what I always have to remind myself. And I want to encourage you today. You may find folks that do things that are inconsistent maybe with what you might think that you would do. And that's fair. There's nothing wrong with that. You might find folks that say things that are that you don't agree with. And that's fair too. That's fair. You may just have folks in your recovery rooms that you just don't get along with. That's fair. Remember, the big book says we're happy, joyous, and free, not happy, joyous, and free, and perfect. And that's the take-home message. At the end of the day, all the differences aside, I always ask myself, does this person share the same goals that I do? And if I can answer yes, they do, then I don't care about the rest. I ignore the imperfections and the faults and the flaws of other people, because I hope that they too would ignore my imperfections, my faults, and my flaws. So with that being said, I'll let you guys go. Thank you guys for letting me come in and share 5 to 10 minutes of your day with you. You guys, absolutely keep me sober, and I could not be any more appreciative. If there's a topic you'd like to hear discussed, feel free to email it directly to me, Drew, D-R-E-W, at recoveryclassroom.org. I'll take a look at it and see what we can do. So in the meantime, guys, just remember, you can't get drunk if you don't take that first drink.